go to our Patreon page, and I'll put the link here. Please just go and support us, because we need to be able to tell our own stories and have our own conversations like this. That's what would move us forward, not what anybody else says.
They are the most insidious actors in the dehumanization of the Ambazonian people. And I see today that they have a high commissioner down there engaged in buffoonery, going around talking in pidgin as if he's trying to entertain the people, wearing the traditional toga. All he needs to do is to paint a black face to finish the minstrel show. Your country said, quote unquote, were undoubtedly expendable. We're not here to be entertained by you, Mr. High Commissioner. Stop that nonsense.
Part of us doing this show is to share what the rest of the world looks like, and if you want to show the United States or European lifestyles as those that are most attractive to Africans these days, then show that, you know what, these people are not very much different than us, and they are not creating something that we cannot create for ourselves. So I think in showing this, we're just showing how you can take a natural environment and transform it to be what you want it to be, and actually serve your purpose, like you're saying, so that you live, not survive and depend on some other person directing you where to go and not to go. July 4th is being spent in Chicago, Illinois, and I have Terrence Bangha Wakai with me. And Terrence, really what I just want you to do is take us around Chicago. You've lived in Chicago here for quite a while, and I think you understand the city very well. I'm not saying you're an expert, but you know the neighborhoods, and you grew up here virtually, so just take us around the city, because I want to show the city to our own people, because I think it's very important that we see how cities are planned, how things are not just randomly done. And even as old as this city is, so they've been planning this city even over 100, maybe 200 years, because you go into the older neighborhoods, you see them, they're well organized, they're well planned. And so I just want you to take us around. I know we are right now in the neighborhood where is the residential area, so take us from here and let me see what you think about some of these streets that we're driving on.
Welcome to Chicago, first of all.
Thank you.
We are in Austin, which is in the west side of Chicago. That is my neighborhood.
Okay.
I've been living here for the past close to 5 years.
Okay.
It's a predominantly African American community, and I feel quite at home living in an African American community after living in, for lack of a better expression, non-African American communities since moving to Chicago from Ambazonia.
Okay.
It's a very old community. It's a very large community. It has, my property is over 100 years old, and It is what you call in Chicago bungalow rule. So you're gonna see a series of bungalows arranged one after the other. All of the homes are almost identical.
Okay.
You know, so.
And maybe that was the developer who did that at the time.
Yes. And what has always fascinated me was that over 100 years ago, when all of these streets were being put together and the homes being built, you could see a structure that was being put in place. You know? And it has lasted for over 100 years. And obviously over the years, adjustments have been made, repiping has been done, everything is working, with technologies of the 21st centuries, so that's great to see.
So even though it's an old neighborhood, when new technologies come, they incorporate them into the old structures, the old buildings.
Exactly, and they become part and parcel, obviously, of the lives of the community and those who live in this area.
Okay, so for example, if there were no air conditionings in the 18th or 19th century, once air conditionings come,
exactly,
they bring them into the homes.
They bring them into the homes, yeah. So anyway, so let me speak for myself. It's between home and then work, right?
Yes.
So I work downtown.
I just want to say that it's very, very hot. So you see us wiping sweat now and then, but we'll prefer it really hot and nice than anything else. So that's what summer is.
But for the most part, I commute downtown. I take the train, or I ride and park by the train station and then take the train a shorter distance downtown. Obviously, downtown Chicago parking is very, very expensive. But we're gonna take a drive downtown, so that you get a feel of downtown Chicago at day and maybe at night if we can.
Yeah, when we go out tonight, we can take some pictures too.
Yeah. What I find most interesting about the neighborhoods as we drive through is the greenery and the vegetation. And I remember I took one of my relatives around a drive downtown, around Chicago, around the neighborhoods of Chicago one time. And the comment he made to me was that I'm so surprised that there are so many trees within the city,
Yes.
And I think it's because of what usually is projected out there to the world. When they want to show an image of Chicago, obviously it's the high-rise.
Yes.
The glass, the steel, the concrete.
Yes. What used to be called the Sears building, I don't know what it's called now.
It's now called the Willis Tower.
Okay.
You have the John Hancock building, which is also a landmark in Chicago.
Yes.
So usually when you see postcards of Chicago or any other major cities in the world, it's not the neighborhoods. It's usually the downtown, the skyline, where you see concrete, you see glass, you see steel. And so so that's the image that a lot of people have in their minds when they're visiting, some of these major cities in the world.
Yes.
But then when you take them to the neighborhood and you see the trees and it seems as if there's a concerted effort to have these trees in the neighborhood to provide shade and calmness.
So we're getting to downtown right now.
Yeah, we're driving from the west side, from Austin. Then we're gonna make a left on Roosevelt Road, which will take us right down to the museum campus.
Okay.
have an opportunity to see the skyline. And then once we get to the museum campus, we have the field museum, we have the shed aquarium, we have the planetarium,
yes,
which looks like it's under construction at the moment.
And the next sign, turn left.
This still show that feel, right?
At the stop sign, take a slight left turn, then the destination is on your right.
Driving back, you can
Capture all of that.
capture all of that.
Yeah.
That's where Dr. From the Susanna Pine, I don't think parking is legal here, but we're gonna park here maybe for about 10-15 minutes so you get a view of the skyline from the lake.
Yes.
And then you can see all the boats and people just having a nice holiday weekend, relaxing.
Yeah, this is a fantastic view, man. This is a fantastic view. Yeah, the view.
Now, today we're driving from the museum campus.
Yes, going up.
So starting from South Lakeshore Drive, driving up,
Yes.
driving north towards North Lakeshore Drive. So it gives you a view of Lake Michigan from the Lakeshore Drive itself, and then all of the buildings the residential buildings that face Lakeshore Drive.
talking about residential again, you know, most of these high rises that we've been talking about, people don't know that they're also residential because there are a lot of expensive condominiums in there. And, so when you see them like that, they're not just offices. A lot of them are.
So I think most of the buildings along Lakeshore Drive are residential.
Yeah.
Most of them.
I'm sure they're $1 million condominiums.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you probably have to pay premium for the view. You know, getting up in the morning and having that beautiful look of Lake Michigan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
East-west view and a north-south view, right?
I hope so.
Yeah. That's all that really matters.
Well, anybody who come to this tour with us would have a good view of Chicago. A very beautiful city whose praises are not sound loud enough. It's a city that has had like 2 black mayors. The home of Al Capone, the home of the Chicago Bears, and a lot of baseball teams, which I think
Bulls, Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, the legendary Bulls of the 90s.
Absolutely. Who can forget number 23? Now, maybe next time when we come, we can go to visit the homes where those legendary players lived.
Oh man, we did not go to the south side.
Well, we'll do the south side some other time. I don't think this is not a city that you can feed everybody everything at the same time. And this is the 3rd largest city in the United States. So you can imagine what number 1 and 2 are. And that one, number 1 is New York, and number 2 is LA.
None of them have the beauty of Chicago, though. I've never been there, but I can't imagine. You know, I met this guy from, I think he's from Argentina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me that, you know, he's traveled everywhere around the world. Excuse me. And that Chicagoans do not recognize how beautiful their city is, right?
Yes.
And that Chicago there's one thing about Chicago and Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires, is that how you call it? Is that they have a beach downtown, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That no other city, you know. But that Chicagoans do not, that it seems as if they do not understand what beautiful city they inhabit. But I do understand it, I don't take it for granted.
Well, I think it's an incredibly beautiful city, and I wasn't thinking of that exception that you just mentioned, that it has a beach downtown, and it's not a lake. Even though they call it Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is connected to the ocean, right?
I believe so at some point.
Yeah, I mean I think it's man-made connection, but it is connected.
This used to be a Spanish restaurant. It was so good. That first restaurant.
Okay.
So we're in Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Chicago. Maybe after the Gold Coast. So we're gonna drive through Lincoln Park.
So any famous people who have lived in Lincoln Park?
What a bunch of Chicago news anchors. I don't think anybody knows who they are. I know Lester Holt, who is now the CBS. Used to live in Lincoln Park.
Okay. The one thing with some of these buildings is that you see them outside, but you really need to go inside to see what makes the difference.
Even when I was living at that old building, I'm gonna drive through. I'll make sure I drive through. I'm gonna park my own. Maybe we should get the pizza from Guerrero's. They have very nice pizza.
Say that again.
So you see the canopies that the tree forms? So you're basically driving under what seems like.
And I asked the kid about what is the difference between Africa and Europe. One of the first things he pointed out was the greenery of the city.
In Europe.
Yes. And the lack of it in Africa. Yes.
But the thing is that the image when people forget like New York or Chicago, they show the high rises. So they never show the neighborhoods where you have a lot of greenery, right?
Yes.
The other part.
Yes.
So when people come in, their perception is that it's all concrete and glass and blah blah blah. And then when you take them around, Lincoln Park.
There's Lincoln Park, right?
Yeah, driving. See the city. So we all have these banners in various communities. Like you had the one of Boston Village. It's really cool. You had the one in West Park. All the streets like that. All these are new buildings. All of this. This is what has made. This is what made Humble Park the hottest neighborhood in the country. Why it was created 10 years ago. All of these are new structures built between the old.
Also, those are great urban renewals.
Yeah, all of this was built while I was living here. Before I moved into this neighborhood, none of these new ones were there. I mean, you can tell the new ones from the older ones.
Yes.
But I hope, some of these neighborhoods, just these trees just add another element of beauty and calm to the whole neighborhood. So the last year we lived here, there was a lot of shootings. Somebody got whacked right here.
But why were they shooting?
I'm sure that was the last piece of
these speed breaks, I used to think that they're in every neighborhood. Obviously they're not, it's only in some. And it's because when I came to visit you here, they were there, so I totally hated them.
Okay.
Where's your old place?
I'll show you. Here's my old place.
This one?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you see this two?
That was a brand new building too.
Yeah. The built it by we. And then you see these two buildings. These are $500,000 each. This black one and this white one.
Yeah.
This is the two. There was a building here that caught fire about 10 times. This is as if somebody.
Oh, this is the one you were talking about. And then after that, this came up.
Finally, there was a big fire that just took it down.
You see this next one, there'll be a fire there very soon.
And then you remember the one that you and Ben came to?
Yes. Was it around here too?
This is it. This one here.
Oh.
This red brick building.
Oh, that's where we came to.
Yes, I lived on the second floor.
Oh my goodness. So.
And the landlord lived on the first floor.
Okay. Amazing.
And then I think when you guys came to middle, was it you actually and Tan?
Yes.
You came to.
When we came for the wedding.
Yeah, you came to a place where you drank, right?
Yes.
This is it.
Yeah, I know that place was right at the corner. This one.
Yes. It's obviously been rebranded and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember this neighborhood well.
So now we're going.
And then we went left here to the place where we stayed.
So this is, I'll show you. You guys are on Kenzie, which is the street over there. So this is Humboldt Park. Yeah, it's a beautiful park.
Oh, that's where this neighborhood gets its name.
Yes, this is Humboldt Park. It's a beautiful park. Yeah, you know what? Let's go up. Let's go. I don't want to take out of it because of construction. And this is the Humboldt Park. This is the Museum of the Briton. Museum of History and Pride. That's the park. One day I used to come here all the time. The beautiful garden on the side. This is the boathouse. That's a cafe. That's a gallery. That's where Brenda opened that show in that gallery.
Okay.
Gallery. That's the restaurant. This is part of the park history. So there's this thing you see this what do you call this? So it's all part of the park. You know, Chicago was designed with the park system in place, and the boulevard system. So I want us to go to west side, right?
So this is
west side.
so this is the west side of where you live, right?
Yeah. I don't know if we're in Austin or may not be in Austin yet. But this is definitely considered part of the west side.
And this is supposed to be the bad side of the well, not bad, but like not a preferred neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's just
for me now it's a matter of having lived here for close to 5 years. It's now a matter of opinion.
Well, that's why I was going to say that. Is it just because a lot of African Americans live in this part of the town that is considered that, or there's something in it? Is there anything particularly wrong with it?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, the thing is, I was talking to one of the guys who grew up on the west side, and he was telling me that one of the problems was that when drugs came into, I think, the 70s and 80s, when the crack cocaine came into the community, basically destroyed the community. So what was happening is that those who were getting old and moving to Florida and Arizona left their homes to the younger generation who were all caught up in the crack epidemic, right? The drug epidemic. And the consequences of that, the imprisonment of black fathers, that left communities with single parent, and so everything just cascaded, and it reflected in the community and in the neighborhood, the fact that people could not maintain.
So that's what gave the west side.
Yeah, so that's where the reputation, and that reputation probably persists. And with that, in that environment, obviously there's some crime and so on.
I don't think we'll have an opportunity to go into any of the nightclubs or places of entertainment, but let's just drive around and show that part of it. was going to say that, when people drive through Chicago, and I think most people know Chicago by just driving through 94 or 90 or one of those highways, 319, and they just see Chicago and they see nothing but a very fast paced highway going down, and they're struggling to switch their lanes not to miss their way. But not too many people have actually gone into the communities to see how rich and beautiful life is in Chicago. And so to most people, when you mention Chicago, I think they mostly, it's either what they're hearing or they remember their drive-through, and they remember how stressful it was because of the size of the highway and the speed. And would you say something? I'm saying this because I think that this weekend I actually I drove on other highways other than this one, this interstate that goes through town. I saw how beautiful some of the highways are, and some of the national and world brands that are all spaced out along. To be honest with you, when somebody sees downtown Chicago, they think that's the ultimate downtown. It is the ultimate downtown, but there are other areas that are equally developed and are housing some of the major brands in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm talking of Highway 294 now. That's the one I drove to when I went to Whitewater.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, not to belabor the point, but it's much more than downtown. The thing is, when people visit Chicago, when people come in as tourists, they're coming for the downtown area.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
which is really sad.
Yeah. So those who are more adventurous here, they'll go into the communities and check it out. But for most people, because that's what they project to the world, as I said, that's what they sell.
Yeah.
They sell the skyline, they sell the lakefront, so
they sell the industrial museum.
Yes, all of the museums are also happen to be downtown.
Yes.
So that kind of, that's logical, right?
Yes.
But when you have an opportunity to go into the neighborhoods, go into the communities, if you have someone who's living in the cities, you want to visit some of the local restaurants in the community, right?
Yes.
The local businesses,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about living in these communities. That I really, if I never lived in a community like this, right, for lack of a better word, an African American community, I wouldn't have had a full measure of experience of the American experience, right?
Yes.
Because having lived most of my time in non-African American communities,
yes,
you don't get that 360 degree experience. So
let me ask you this: before you came to live in an African American community, what were your impressions about African American communities?
Well, we follow the narrative that is predominant, which is, those are dodgy communities and so on.
Dodgy means that they're not good communities.
They are not good communities.
Yes.
So one of the reasons when we decided to move, well, it was like, okay, I want to have that experience, and I looked at another community which is called Bronzeville in Chicago, and then obviously this one, and we have a friend who lived in this community, and we used to visit that friend. And whenever we visited, it went against the predominant narrative that and it was quiet. They have beautiful homes, fences, nice yards, and I'm like, I could live,
Yes.
So when it came, it was an easier decision for me to make, because I've been there, I've experienced it. I've been there at midnight, I've been there in the morning, and
so you had to see it to believe.
I had to see it to believe.
Isn't that the same thing about Africa, where you and I come from? You remember when we first came here, they'll ask you questions making allusions to whether people live on trees, or you see lions and all kinds of wildlife around you. Isn't that the same thing?
Well, I mean, again, they had to create narratives in order to justify why they treated black people in a certain way. We took them out of the jungle, and so some of those kind of questions are reflective of that folklore that they created around the African in order to justify why they were treated the way they were.
Yes.
Narratives are always important in creating opinions, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think I told you earlier that I think you had asked me if it is a good or bad community. I said now it's a matter of opinion. Right?
No, I can tell you one thing. When I came here and I drove around, I saw how orderly they were. I saw how kids were playing outside even at night, late at night.
Yeah.
It wasn't the narrative that you hear about African American communities in all media.
Yeah. Especially in major metropolitan areas.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And I'm so glad that we picked that I'm in Chicago, because this is the third largest city in the United States. So I think it captures urban life very, very well. And when you drive through the neighborhoods, you would love each of them to be your neighborhood. And the roads are wide, they're beautiful. But let me say this though, as an Ambazonian, I want to say two things about being an Ambazonian, which is why I actually wanted to do the show, not just to show the city, but just to also show how the Ambazonians who are in the West, or who left home seeking further education in the West, are really they're really citizens of the West right now, in the sense that we're very embedded in how the West was created, how life in the West is, and how people work to accomplish what they've accomplished to impress everybody else in the world. So that the Ambazonia that we're fighting for is the Ambazonia where we return to, and when we return to, these experiences will be very, very important in recreating the environment which, like you said, was destroyed by occupiers.
Let me say something. Ambazonians in the West are important, obviously. But the most important people are Ambazonians in Ambazonia. I went to school with some of the brightest people that I know. I cannot even compare with them in terms of academic performance. They outshone me in every way.
Yes.
They are in Ambazonia.
They are back home.
They are back home.
Yes.
They will, given the opportunity, given the functional systems that hopefully they themselves will put in place, will provide room even for us, if we choose to, or if we have the opportunity to work within. I have tremendous amount of respect for our people back home.
Yes.
And I say this because I went to school with them, from primary school, from nursery school to high school.
Yes.
And there were so many intelligent boys and girls.
Yes.
Who did not have some of the opportunities that some of us had, but who are there, and they are no less intelligent because they did not leave the place.
No.
They are the ones that must recreate what suits their needs best. They're not going to recreate a community that suits the needs of Ambazonia coming from the West. Do Ambazonians from the West have a role to play? They certainly do. They have experience, they have expertise. But what I'm saying is that there is a macro structure that needs to be put in place in order to defend the freedom and the independence that the people are fighting for, that they are fighting for. Because at some point we really need to speak as nationals of other countries. Yes, our roots are in Ambazonia, and every experience we live, even after all these years, it brings us back to what if this was in Ambazonia?
Yes.
When I travel to other parts of the world and I experience something, I'm like, wow.
You would like to bring it home.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what I was talking about. That these are experiences. Look, nobody can underestimate the intelligence and now the courage and the boldness of Ambazonians to make for themselves, which is exactly why people from La Republique have been flooding our schools with their own children, even though they call us Anglophiles, But what I'm saying is that once we go back and we meet these heroes, they are heroes of ours because they have challenged the system that made you and I leave, or that did not give us the opportunity to study back there. But I'm saying that there's something, and you just mentioned that there's nothing that beats experience. And I think that having gone out and experienced the world will bring the world back to Ambazonia, and I mean, nobody can determine what the limit will be once that happens.
Yeah, the point I was just trying to make is that you've called these people, these young men and women, patriots. That they are fighting to change an environment that did not give us the opportunity to stay there, right? Or to come and study and go back there and express our knowledge, our experience, our expertise. These guys, these are the guys for whom statues are going to be built for.
Absolutely.
All of them.
Absolutely.
There is none of these people that I think you've referred to as middlemen who would have a gutter named for them. You know what I'm saying?
No. Absolutely.
You know, and so we have to revere, we have to respect, we have to this and even just the average Ambazonia who has persisted. You know, one of the things that these people did, and I think they ended up believing in it, was to create a caricature of an Ambazonia.
Yes.
The person that they call an Anglofu.
Yes.
Or a Bamenda or Mombamenda.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
There's a story you talked about when you were at the University of Yaoundé. Right? You slip and fall and the word is Anglofu, Anglofu, Anglofu. Right?
Yes.
So they had created this caricature of who an Ambazonian is as a human being. Right?
Yes.
They had created an institutionalized deceit. Right? As an annexed people, as foolish people, as forgiving, as naive, and they believed it. And so when this thing erupted in 2016 and Biya declared his war in 2017,
yes,
all they had in mind was that Anglo-food that they had created. The person who dropped his spoon in the, what did you call it?
Cafeteria.
Yes, Anglo-food. The person who slipped and fell, Anglo-food.
Yes.
Mombamenda, my servant.
Yes.
So this caricature that is what they had about the Ambazonia. And they said, okay, 2 weeks, we'll take them out. And you know what Mike Tyson once said? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right?
Absolutely. That plan falls apart.
Biya and Macron and the French establishment came in with their plan.
Yes.
The Amber boys, without any training,
yes,
without any military expertise, punched them in the mouth.
And in fact, without any plan, because
they
were not
yes,
thinking that they would
yes,
be attacked the way they were
yes,
attacked.
And all of a sudden, that caricature of the Anglo-Fu is gone.
Yes.
And they are looking left and right. They have no idea what to do.
Yes. Well, there's nothing for them to do but pack out, because those caricatures were human beings. You made yourself an idiot, and now there's no room for idiots in Ambazonia. Absolutely, no room. And now that you brought us into Ambazonia, obviously, different people are trying to interject themselves again to tell Ambazonians who they should negotiate with and what should be the outcome. No, is that outcome going to be dependent on somebody else other than Ambazonians?
Let me answer that this way, right?
Yes.
Over the last few years, we've all participated in meetings with people who consider themselves external actors representing foreign interest.
Yes.
Telling us about the geopolitics, the reality of the geopolitics of our situation.
Yes.
Telling us about what they call realpolitik.
Yes.
Telling us that sovereignty trumps self-determination.
Which is absolutely nonsense.
But guess what they were all counted on, and what France and La République counted on? They counted on force.
Yes, brute force.
And guess who is showing them brute force?
Well, it's not them. If they want to bring more, let them do, right?
The Amber boys are showing these people the only language, are talking to these people now in the only language they understand.
Yes.
The language of brute force.
And that's very unfortunate, isn't it?
It's very unfortunate because, as I said, right, at the beginning, without a signed treaty to formalize Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon's federation, without a signed treaty to formalize the federation between Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon, the Ambazonian people expressed kinship. They used their native nobility as the first democratic country on the continent to express a kinship to their so-called African brothers.
Yes.
what late Pa Modern Jumbe used to call in Jumba marriage.
Yes.
Let's do this Jumba marriage. Let's respect each other. Let's honor even in spirit, some of these agreements that we've reached, but were not concluded. And what did they do? Aijo that they are pining for today decided to what Pierre Mesmer called the annexation of our land, right?
Yes.
And they came and dismantled the whole place. And they did that using brute force. They did that using brute force, terror, and the international community
sat quiet
because that is the language they understand. And now that the Amber boys are speaking in that same language, you see the armored the military vehicles going up in flames. You know, that is the brute force language that they understand, and it's only gonna get better. It's only gonna get better, and now you're gonna start seeing the international community starting to respect. And all of this is being driven not by the generosity of any external actor. This is being driven by the exhibition of brute force by the Amber boys.
Yes.
And that is the driver, that is the limiting factor.
Yes.
That is gonna give us the independence.
And I just want to add to it that now that they've told us what language they listen to, I don't think we should ever allow somebody else to speak with us in that language or pretend that they can represent us in that, because when we gave up our own security and our own defense to what you just described as African brothers, what did they do? They turn around and turn it against us. Yeah. So we should never ever give up our guns anymore. We should never allow our defense to go into other hands, and we should never become second to anybody or I think Terrence, I think all the goodwill, all the sense of cooperation, all the going along with the international community has ended for us in a very, very bad place. And I think we should withdraw and abandon that, because people who keep doing the same thing expecting different results are more the idiots or the fools.
At the beginning of the military campaign of the French and the Cameroonese, and I want to highlight what what Macron said when this thing erupted. He said, basically, he was instructing Paul Biya. The word he used was stabilization. You have to stabilize, and then the next step to their solution was decentralisation approfondie.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
But the word stabilization is an innovation of the word pacification, which is the word that they used in the 50s, 60s, and 70s to crush the UPC people.
Yes, absolutely.
So they did not say we're gonna go decimate the UPC. No, they say let's go pacify. It's such a beautiful word,
yes.
Pacification.
Yes, they use all these euphemisms,
yes.
which all to them they know exactly what it means. The only way to stabilize is to go in with the military force
and kill people.
Make sure that people sit where they are asked to sit.
Yes.
And then do what they're asked to do.
Yeah.
So yes.
And I don't know if you remember Sam Sawyer. That was the first person whose head.
That was the first head that was cut.
Yes.
It was not Ambazonians who cut that head.
So and obviously that brings us back to the tactic that they used in the Bamileke country, where they'll cut people's head and put it on the market square. So their pacification, which they themselves have qualified as a genocide. I'm using the word of French writers now, French historians.
Yes.
Their pacification, they say, okay, because we have misused that word in the past in this context, let's not use pacification.
Yes.
Let's tell Biya to stabilize.
Yes.
It's stabilization,
yes.
Right? And
look, the situation was stable, was very stable before.
Yes.
And then Biya caused the destabilization, and then they're asking him to be the one who goes and stabilizes it again. I mean.
But at the end of the day, right? Let's not belabor the theoretical analysis of it, right? I know it's important for people to have, an intellectual framework. But at the end of the day, what is happening is that there is one language that the purveyors of geostrategy, that the purveyors of realpolitik understand, and that is the language of brute force.
Yes.
And I think over the last few months, the Amba boys are now speaking in that language. Because I do remember when some of the first villages were burned. There's a particular video when a hospital was burned. I can't remember the area. I know it was somewhere in the southern zone.
In
where it was
Muyuka?
Yes. And there's this video of this boy begging, and he called their names. He called the names of the institution. He called the United Nations. I think he called the United Kingdom. I think he called the United States, begging that this is what is happening to us. Come and help us. Nobody did a thing. Nobody instituted visa restrictions on anybody. They wanted Biya to go and quote unquote stabilize the situation.
And he went from room to room, ward to ward,
Yes.
showing the devastation.
Yes. Begging
Begging.
these external actors. It's nice that the United States of America has started with something, whatever that means. But it's not because they love us more than we love ourselves, or they love us more, they love the Amba boys or the Ambazonians more than it's because they're beginning to understand that language that the Amba boys are now speaking, that language of brute force. And that is the language, right?
Yes.
That is the language that is going to give us our independence.
An inalienable right.
Yes, independence. I don't want anybody to conflate independence with autonomy, with freedom, with blah blah blah. Sovereign independence based on boundaries which are not being drawn today.
And which were, those boundaries were very nice when they were drawn for the benefit of the British. But somehow it is not important that Ambazonians have those boundaries respected, is it?
Well, the British, and I've said it in the past, they are the most insidious actors in the dehumanization of the Ambazonian people. And I see today that they have a high commissioner down there engaged in buffoonery, going around talking in pidgin as if he's trying to entertain the people, wearing the traditional togo. All he needs to do is to paint a black face to finish the minstrel show. Your country said, quote unquote, were undoubtedly expendable. We're not here to be entertained by you, Mr. High Commissioner. Stop that nonsense.
You know the irony about that is that when did they say we're expendable? In 1961, right?
Leading up to 1961.
Now this is 60 years later. So is our expendability or whatever dependent on some other human pronouncing it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like if you talked about caricatures, it's almost making us become like animals that can be pushed around and sit where they are. No, we are human beings as equal to another. There's a larger conversation that you and I are going to have on this, which because some of these things, some of the behaviors that they behave in Africa, they don't come from thin air. They are. There's a whole narrative that goes with that, which over the centuries has amounted to where these people actually believe that yes, we can say you're expendable and you become expendable.
Let me make a point regarding the British and the French, because they are two of the historic actors in our, in the situation in Ambazonia. I respect the French even more, because you have the French ambassador who goes there, getting a guard of honor. You have the French there with their military uniforms doing and yeah, pretty much open about what they do.
Yeah, they don't hide it from anybody.
And then you have this British High Commissioner having determined that we're going to become a little gift to France from the Queen of England, having described us as being undoubtedly expendable. They send this buffoon, I'm sorry, but they send this buffoon. He goes there speaking in pidgin, thinking that he's going to impress the Ambazonian people, defiling, I'll call it defiling our traditional attire.
Okay.
Mr. High Commissioner, next time put on that black face and complete the show. The Amber boys are not, right? These Amber boys today are not the generation.
I know your Funchas and Indelis.
I don't want to call names. They are not the generation of the people you consider undoubtedly expendable. Respect yourself and respect the humanity of the Ambazonian people. You've done so much wrong to them. For you to come and mock them and taunt them by doing that is completely unacceptable. And as they will say in London, you can piss off.
Having said that, I think we can conclude the show with saying that we're celebrating American Independence Day. And as we were filming, I think you can hear some of the fireworks in the background. So let's hope that this is that this is an opening, or I'm looking for a better word for this, that this is previewing Ambazonia Independence Day coming.
Yes, the United States of America fought, ironically, against the British for their independence.
Yes.
It was a long, brutal war. As I've said in the past, I expect our struggle to be a generational conflict. So let nobody be in a hurry. Well, hopefully I'm wrong, and the suffering stops sooner rather than later. And we get to build in a life of people who live lives and not just survive or subsist.
And what Terrence just said will be the last word. I thank you for watching. There's a lot more to bring about Chicago, and I hope that I can come down more often and get this done. Thank you for watching.